Welcome to the Gentle Art of Leadership podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in to watch today. Please make sure to leave this video a like, a comment. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and share this with anybody that it will bring value to. Emily Shoup.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. You're the first female to have on this podcast. Very special female. Tell everybody who you are.
I am your wife.
Hey, so we start all the podcasts the same way. Our stories met in the basement of Suite 152.
Classy place.
20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
21.
Yeah.
2002. So coming up this summer will be 21 years that we met.
We've known each other half our lives at this point.
We do. We have. So what were you doing leading up to that? Leading up to us meeting and you falling in love in the basement that night?
That is wishful thinking. But I was just doing college, trying to decide my major. You know, I was started with early childhood development and then ended up going to elderly adults geriatrics. So I was working through all of that. And then I met this guy in the basement.
So why were you really there that night? Because you didn't want to go there.
No. My roommate drugged me to salsa dance. I have never done it before. I didn't want to go, but it was fun. It was time to get out. And then I met this guy, asked him to pretend to be my boyfriend for the night because people wouldn't leave me alone. And then we went from there. So the truth is I fell in love right away. Minute I met you. And when you said, hey, will you be my fake boyfriend for the night? I'm thinking, because I didn't say it. I said, well, I'll be your real boyfriend forever. And then I got your number, and you told me not to forget something. Yeah.
Next time I see you.
My name, Emily, is a very common name, has been for centuries. So I thought, hey, if this guy's really interested, he'll remember that basic. And you didn't.
I didn't. 3 months later, bumped into you, forgot your name.
Called me Aaron.
Called you Aaron. You wrote me off.
Aaron, I mean Emily. And that was it for me. I said, no, thank you.
So how the heck did we get to 20 years later, we're on a podcast together? Because we're going to talk about you being the spouse, the better half of Crazy Entrepreneur, right? We've got tons of business owners, leaders watching this, and want to bring some value to them, get some perspective of what their spouse goes through. And then hopefully the spouses are watching this too. They can get some perspective on the other end.
Yeah. It's definitely a partnership, a crazy partnership.
How do we get here?
Roller coaster ride.
Tell us about this roller coaster.
We ended up having 3 classes together the next semester. I was sitting in your seat without knowing it during a mix-up, get-to-know-each-other time in class. And you came to get your coat, and you grabbed your coat, and I thought, oh, man, this guy again. He's back.
And his jacket. It was not just a coat. It was a
nice leather jacket.
Leather
that is
jacket.
True. But we started hanging out, started talking, studying together, and then you always offered me your snack. That was how I figured out that you really, really liked me. You would bring Wheat Thins a lot, and you'd have a big bag of Wheat Thins, and you'd eat. Sometimes you'd get to the last one, and I would watch.
You were watching this. You were counting the Wheat Thins.
But you always offered me one.
Okay.
You never failed with that.
So is that how you knew? When did you know that I was the one? Because I knew right away. We have 2 totally different stories. Like our stories came together. You have a story. I have a story. Those came together. Now we have this story together. But I remember the moment. I remember when I told you we would have cute kids.
You did.
Told you that way too early.
Way too early. Scared me a little.
I was right.
You were
They're
right.
super cute.
They're adorable.
When did you know?
That's a good question. I knew that you were most likely the one when you wouldn't leave me alone. When you wouldn't stop asking me out 3 times a day every day. But it took my heart a while to figure out that this was legit. Longer than you.
So we talk about our personality styles. I'm quick to decide, quick to act. You're slower to decide, slower to act. Do you think that had anything to do with it? Because I don't think, at least for me, I knew it was like that. I just knew. Do you think it's like that for everybody? you think everybody can answer that question, that they just know? Or do you think it's more of a process because you're more of a processor?
Probably the second one.
Okay.
More of a process. Yeah.
So that's kind of your style playing out.
And I'd
Possibly.
been hurt in the past pretty badly from ex-boyfriends. So I wasn't ready to totally jump all in for a while longer than you were.
So you had been hurt, and I had never committed. Because people that have heard my story, I've shared my story a lot, right? So I'd found my faith just a year or two before that. So I was like locked up back at the police car, drugs and alcohol, find Jesus, have a semester figuring that out, a year figuring that out, and then go to Spain for a semester, come back from Spain, and I fall in love with Spain. And when I met you, I'm looking at every different way that I can get back to Spain, this place that I fell in love with, and then I fall in love with you, and we end up staying here.
Yep.
And planting the roots down. But I had never committed at that point. I was just chasing girls around at that point and partying. So I'm like, man, I've never known this. I've never had this before, but I just knew it's like, okay, am I ready for this? And I am. And then I went after what I wanted.
Yeah. You jumped in.
So do you think part of the being pursued was important? Because every woman wants that, right? Like men want to pursue a woman, and a woman wants to be pursued.
Yep.
So was it annoying? Because I was relentless.
No, it wasn't annoying.
I was relentless, though.
You were.
You
relentless.
looked annoyed most of the time.
Relentless, probably, probably, but that's more because I wasn't ready to find the one, and I knew you were the one.
So you're like, push him away, talk in a baby voice, be annoying, say we're just friends, even though we were way more than friends.
Right? I hoped you wouldn't share the baby voice.
You did the baby voice. You got to tell people about that, though, right?
Well, I was doing
Haley needs to know, right, what she needs to do. She's going to put a man through the same test. I think it's adorable.
I was going to do every weird thing, let out every weird part of my personality to try to drive you away. Because that had been my experience in the past, right? You let out part of your personality that the person who you're dating doesn't like, and they disappear. They can't handle it.
Or you're vulnerable and you step into that. You're like, I'm going to show the real me, show the real side of me. Yep. And then they hurt you and dump you.
Yep. So I said, okay, I'm going to just let it all out. And at the time, for whatever reason, I would talk like a baby. Oh, gosh. That's really embarrassing. I think I'm blushing.
You know who's laughing harder right now, though, watching this?
Joey. Yeah.
What's up, Joey?
But, yeah. So I said, okay, let's let all the weird out. Let's do it. And I remember the first time I talked like a baby to you, and you were like, oh, my gosh, that's so cute. I love when you do that. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
So I remember, because I'm a salesman. I share this a lot, but I remember the evening that I was done being friends, and it was time to call you out. We spent every Thursday, Friday, so I spent every day together, right?
Pretty
We were
much.
spending all time together, and it was just an unspoken rule. Friday night, we're going to Chili's, walking over to Chili's, right? I'm gonna get that Presidente margarita, share some fajitas, and that's what we did, right? Very, very classy back then.
Classiest.
And then you're like, hey, we going to Chili's tonight? I said, nope, going out with Megan.
I don't think you named anybody.
Did I not name it? I thought I named it.
You said, I have a date tonight. And I said, no, you do not. And that was probably it for me as far as realizing, okay, we're dating.
That was it.
This was a committed relationship.
I found that photo the other day. I had this big meathead with the big red button-up shirt and the curly perm hair. We went to Chili's that night. Do you remember that?
You were very cute.
That was our first, but I think that was the first official, right? Because that's our half anniversary.
Yeah.
Was it what, Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
I think it was.
I think so.
I remember that. Crazy.
We picked the classiest place for a Valentine's date.
We did. So like we've just been going through the story. We're 21 years later of knowing each other, coming up on 19 here this summer. Like what's going on today? And we'll fill in the in-between with like all the lessons learned, right? All the leadership lessons for entrepreneurs and leaders and how business comes home.
Yep.
And how you can't separate that. Sometimes you can't compartmentalize, at least I can't. We've had this discussion. We have couples out here for couples night, do leadership language, gentle art of leadership coaching, and the idea of compartmentalizing, that I should just compartmentalize the craziness that went on here and just not talk about it at home, or that we should compartmentalize what's going on at home and it doesn't become present here.
Right.
So yeah, like what do we got going on today? And let's dig into all that for people.
A lot. We have a lot of changes going on, and people gone for the summer in businesses. So I jumped back in with you this summer and possibly beyond for just filling in the gaps for right now.
Yeah. So we worked
It's a lot.
together. We worked together with M&D Painting back in 05, 06,
Yeah.
07.
But it was pretty new.
Remember we bought the house on Tabernash and we had the business phone hooked up to the TV in the living room. It would be like 8 o'clock. We were just wrapping up, whether it's before,
Forgot
during,
about
or
that.
after kids. Then the phone's ringing and it's like, that customer again.
Yep.
Right? That
Yeah.
guy. No, that gal. I'm not talking to her. You go get it. You remember
Yep.
that? Remember that one particular? Yep.
I do.
Yeah. So you were in the business, and then we decided you wanted to have kids and be a stay-at-home mom.
Yep.
Right,
And I
that's
told
been
you
the
when
goal.
we
Yeah.
started dating, I said, hey, my goal is to be a stay-at-home mom. Just if we end up taking this further and have kids, get married, all that stuff, I want to stay home with our kids.
I remember marriage counseling when we were going through that with the pastor, and he was talking about, hey, like what's the vision, right?
Yeah.
When we were, and I never heard about vision or start with why or any of this business stuff that we talk about today, but I remember that was the first time I thought about vision. We thought about vision together. We talked about that, and we talked about having kids in a business,
Yep.
right? Kids business, stay-at-home mom, some vacations. Do you remember anything else? I'm just trying to think. Like everything we've got going on today, was that?
Probably
That's
not.
what I recall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was probably pretty basic.
Do we even know what the hell we were talking? I don't think we knew what the hell we were talking about or
No,
getting into
of
at
course
that
not.
point.
I don't
No
think
idea.
anybody does.
No.
You just try to do your best, try to get in there and
Yeah.
figure it all out as you go.
So we're working together, and then we did, and knowing that you're not going to stay in the business when you became pregnant with Riley, we had a plan to get you out. But how was working together then versus now? Because we just talked about this. I really enjoyed being around you right now,
Yeah.
and I would hope to say you more so than we did previous.
Yes.
Like it's intense. We got a lot going on.
Yep.
It's stressful.
Yes.
But I don't talk about that. Like, what's that difference, and why do you think it's there? Because for me, it's different.
For me, it's different too.
Yeah.
I think, when we first started out, we're not only a brand new married couple, but it's a brand new business. You're learning how to be a boss. I was not ever in an employee in that type of situation. I had worked at Elder House, an adult day program. It's a respite program, great program for people with Alzheimer's, dementia, stuff like that. So then when I step into an office type administrative position with my new husband as a new boss, we had a much harder time back then.
And I'm still a shit show at that point of a man. Like for real. Like I had not dealt with anything that I talk about now with, like I haven't,
Yeah.
right?
And
Nor had we.
right. And we're early 20s,
Yeah.
within our first, 3 years of marriage?
Summer of 04, right?
Something like
August
that.
of 04, we get married, right? I'm transitioning out of that hack shop
Mm-hmm.
mortgage call center to the conservative bank, right?
Yeah.
Had the honeymoon, came back. It was literally October of 04 to March of 05.
Yeah.
So I was at that bank just hating life.
Mm-hmm.
Share this story 100 times, but like share that as I'm hating life and you're at Elder House and you're moving into the condo that I bought that I was upside down in a year before we got married. Kind of talk about that story where you're alongside me as I'm sharing the origin story, which I've shared thousands of times now.
Yeah.
I'm coming home every day in the freaking tie, right? Like, how was your day? Talk about that. I'm curious to hear your side.
Well, I would say, I think we were both in our own, when you're newly married, you haven't figured out that connection, that work together, that give and take quite yet. You're still used to being you and focusing on yourself. And so you're still learning how to include that other person and really give your all to them while they give their all to you. And you're meshing together as a couple. So I was completely unaware of our financial situation. of everything. I left all of that to you.
Which was good, but not good, right?
Right. Like we were probably better off than some kids our age because we were kids. We were 22 years old.
Yeah, we were young.
You know, and yeah, so I was completely out of it. I just kind of was like, yeah, you got it. You handle it. And doing my own thing in my own job. And then you were doing your own thing in your own job. And then we'd come together at night. And
with a little
how was your
checkbook on the coffee
day?
table. I remember that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How was the day?
And, you know, you're kind of, I don't know. There's not as deep of a connection, I think. Yeah. So as you're learning how to be a boss, this is a brand new position. I'm learning how to be a administrative employee. And we're learning how to be a husband and a wife. It was tense because you're going from, hey, let's love each other and be spouse to, hey, get this done. I'm your boss. Or, hey, boss, I have a question. And it just didn't go well.
It didn't? No.
For a lot of reasons, I think. But yes, this time is much better.
But looking back, like for all the reasons, right? If you were to play that out today, of course, anybody could have seen that.
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it completely makes sense. But, you know, now we're coming on 19 years of marriage. You've been doing the business for a long time, and the business was new at the time as well.
Yeah, and I was still in that
when we first started working.
That very much business model that I had learned with the college painting, just the hardcore door knocking and closing and churning and burning and still coming out of that mindset mentality environment, right?
Yeah.
That's how we built M&E. That's definitely not how we're continuing to build it, but that was that was the style back then. Yeah.
Yep.
And it worked. It got us
then.
Pretty far.
Right.
But talk about so the 6 figures in debt, you didn't know about that. What did you know or remember other than that you were like a super tight penny pincher and I'm just spending money, got the nice car, and you knew the bills were being paid. Right. Because we were mailing them out. Right. I remember we had a little checkbook, that little raised coffee table that you spilled the nail polish on. Remember, like we had that for so long, right? That was in our condo. And we'd sit down and do the bills on like Sunday night. But you didn't know behind the bills the balance sheet of our household.
Yep. I had
totally
no
underwater.
clue. I think coming from the family I did and being raised with money the way I was just used to, you know, one parent is in charge, and you don't realize when you're 22 and newly married that your parents also had to figure out how that was going to go. You just kind of automatically assume, hey, this is how it is, you know? So I never even thought to look at our balance sheet or the checkbook. I just, oh yeah, that's his job. He has it. And you're right. I was a super frugal penny pincher to an extreme at the time when we got married, and you would spend to the extreme. And I think over the years, we've definitely melded those together and come to a happy medium.
Well, we did what we learned, right?
Exactly.
So your background. So was it your dad that had managed the money growing up?
Pretty sure,
So you're just like, hey, husband does it, so that's what's going on here.
I guess so. Yeah.
And you guys were frugal.
Yeah, and we had to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were just frugal, and I think just my personality, I'm more careful. So if I'm making the money, I want to make sure I have the money and I save the money and it goes towards something I really want. I don't spend it till I need to the point where, I call my dad in college because I have a cold sore and I won't buy at the time, like $17 medication for it. Right. My dad is
like,
just
take care
buy it.
Just buy it.
Just buy it, like extremely penny pinching. But
and then I'm out at the student center, the Lori Student Center, recruiting for college painting, swiping the credit card for the chicken sandwich, Carl's Jr. meal every day. Every day.
Yep.
I remember that. And then just going out on it, just spending.
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea. Right. And that was like, I had no financial blueprint. So when I was sitting down on Sundays with the checkbook, that's because I decided I needed to do that. And I knew how much was coming in and going out. Mm-hmm. And I think I knew. Did I know we were spending more than we were making, or just not care? Or did you see that there was this faith and confidence that we would make this money? Because we started making a lot of money really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And I just don't even remember looking back. I was so pissed off that I got fired. I'm like,
Right.
screw you, we're doing it.
Right.
And I don't remember much more than that. I don't know if do you recall anything more than that?
I don't really, but
Yeah.
you also have to remember that I had no idea how far in debt we were until like 5 years ago,
Well,
6 years ago, when
Yeah.
you started really writing this down and having this be something that you shared as part of the business, however long ago that was. And you told me, and I said, "Excuse me?"
was I writing a blog or I went on a podcast and you listened to it and you're
Maybe.
like, what? Say what? How many
Yeah,
dollars
I
in
had
debt?
no clue that we had $100 left to us that we could start a bank account, you know, and that we were pretty
So is
financially broke. No
I'm
clue.
sorry or you're welcome. Like, I don't know. Like, is it good and bad, right? I mean, it
Yeah,
was
I
what it
guess
was.
so.
Yeah.
You know, I never felt, I think I would have felt really unsafe had I known we had no money. I probably would have gone deeper into the penny pinching and like almost hoarding it to feel safe. And I didn't do that because I didn't know. So that's probably a good thing in some ways.
So I remember as we were making all the money, right? And I paid off that Honda, that brand new car. Right? I always loved the Honda. Paid that off, paid off the school loans.
Yeah.
Started paying off like the HELOC, all these upside down parts of the house. And you're like, that was a bill? Yeah, we got it paid off. And it was like, we just went down the line, right? Just right down the list.
Yeah.
You know, till we got to a really great spot, 2008, made that. And you didn't know that?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
It was much later because it hasn't been till
Okay.
fairly
Well,
recently.
hey, here we are. Here we
Yeah.
are. So, gosh, we just talked about like our stories and our upbringing and how our stories from growing up, families of origin, came into marriage, personality styles, business. This can go so many places right now.
It can.
Like what do you feel like is like, what do you want to share right now? Somebody's watching this, a spouse of an entrepreneur is watching this, an entrepreneur that maybe doesn't get a perspective of a spouse. Like what's the biggest thing for you that you wish entrepreneurs would know from the spousal standpoint that I miss every day, that I missed over these 20 years that I didn't think about, even though we do now? You know, 10, 15 years ago, what did you want to smack me over the head with that we could, in a loving way, smack somebody over the head that's 5 years into marriage and they're going through this right now?
Probably most entrepreneurs come up with about 1 billion ideas a day. If you are married to your opposite, like we are, and a lot of people are, that is tremendously scary. Because to someone like me, who is a slow processor, when I say, here is my idea, I've thought it through, it's happening, and we're going to do it. So when then I hear you say, here's 25 ideas, before we had learned our personality types, I would think we are doing all 25 ideas right now, immediately today. And it would be so overwhelming and stressful. And then, so I would gear myself up. Okay, this is what we're doing. Let's go. Let's get it ready. And then a couple days later, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. Forget about that. And I would, wait, okay, stop.
Squirreling.
Stop. Okay. And then you'd do more. Okay, here we go. So I think to tell entrepreneurs and spouses to get to know your personality types because that will help tremendously in figuring out, now I know, that your personality type is just going to have 100 ideas a day.
And I just
that
want
is
them
okay.
to be heard. I just want them to be heard and validated. And you're processing them all.
And I'm processing them all, but
Yeah.
I have realized because of mine, these aren't all happening. Let's pretend none of them are happening. And then we'll see which ones actually go forth. Start.
Yeah.
But it was highly stressful.
It's exciting for me as the high D, high I visionary, just run. I've got an idea. Let's jump off the cliff. Oh, I don't have a parachute and there's people here. And you're like, what? I just want to share that idea and have you say like, wow, that's a really great idea. I go, babe, I've got an idea. And it's usually about 3 a.m. I like wake up and I roll over and I kiss you. I'm like, hey, I got an idea. Right.
Yep. That was this morning.
Go back to bed.
That was this morning.
Idea. You're like, shut up. And I just want
Yep.
you to say, awesome, right?
Yep.
And
I
then a
don't
lot of
always
times
do a
you
good job of
verbally
that.
process it out loud, right? And I think that's been a source of some fights we've had,
Absolutely.
right? Like talk about that. So that's been one thing. I'm too fast and I can't slow down, right? And then you talk about love language, love languages. I love words of affirmation. I just want the words, Matt, that's a great idea. Great idea. Good job. And you want quality time, which I just am like, what? That's not working. That's not productive.
Yep.
And then you're processing my dreams. And then I just say you're shitting on my dreams,
Yep.
right? When I just want that affirmation.
Right.
And we had some knockdown dragouts.
We have over
Yeah.
the years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even semi-recently, where you had to remind
Yeah.
me, I just need you to say, okay, good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll park it there, which is fine.
And I think it used to be, I'm like, F you, now I'm going to be mad and find a way to be mad at you, right? And not talk to you, like
Right.
even 10 years ago
Yep.
is what it was. Now it's like, we might still say F you to each other or think it, right? Because you do. I know you do when I get on these
I've
tangents.
thought that before.
Yeah, no, we do. Then it's like, okay, verbalize, listen, like right now, this is just what I need. And then I understand, like right now, I'm moving really slow in business.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's really fast still for you.
Yep.
But I think you can see it's a lot slower.
I can, and I appreciate it.
And that's hard,
I know it
really
is.
hard.
I know. I can tell you want to be doing.
There's seven
About 30
things.
more things that
There's seven things that should have happened yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to happen over the next 30 to 60 days.
And that's always how you are.
Yeah.
There are always
Yeah.
at least 7 things that should have happened yesterday that didn't.
But there's like 2 right now. There's 2 right now that absolutely should happen right now, and they're not.
Yeah.
And they're just going to wait for a minute
Yep.
because it's just the better thing to do in this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So, love languages. So let's back up. We went to a Dave Ramsey Entre Leadership Retreat. It was 2008, first year he hosted that in Mexico. And we got some homework. He said, hey, do some homework, take this survey. And we took a DISC survey, personality survey. And I remember we each got these reports. We got the little book in the mail. And it said, hey, start by reading this. And if your spouse is coming, read this. And then we read it and talk about that, because that was the first time that I was ever exposed to this. We now have couples come out and we take them through this process, right?
Yeah.
15 years later. But do you remember that? We were up.
Yeah.
We were up top floor Tabernacle, right? Because this was 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just reading through and I'm like, whoa, who's spying on me?
Yeah. Well, at the time, we were the same personality style. I don't know if you remember that. We were both very high Ds. And I think we would have a lot more arguments at the time because of that. Because we were both the strongest personality in the room.
And for people that don't know what a D is, right?
Yeah.
Explain
It's
that.
very type A.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the boss. Let's do it my way or the highway.
Yep. Short, sweet, to the point.
Yep.
Love problems. If there's not problems, we're making problems. Very direct.
Yep.
Love jumping into problems and then creating them if they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
Just very aggressive, assertive, right?
Yeah.
Just kicking in the front door, handling the issue. It's a big hammer.
Yep.
Incredible Hulk. So we've got 2 big hammer Incredible Hulks
Yeah.
running around in business, not working well together.
Yep.
Then kid comes along. When do you think that changed for you? Because now you just took it for leadership training that we did with coaches.
Yeah.
And your detail process, right? That surgical, methodical, that careful, cautious, measure. Are you going to cut? I just cut 100 things. You're like, measure. Yours is really high right now.
It is. That's my 3rd personality style. Doesn't mean you're schizophrenic or anything. That's what do you need? What's a snapshot of where you are in your life right now? What do you need to be in your life? And apparently, at the time we were first married, I felt the need to challenge you on everything, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's probably, I can look back at my childhood and everything, and that was my personality style pretty much all through my life.
Growing up.
Yep.
Do you think you were born with that? So we get this question a lot from couples, right? Like, is that a nature, nurture? I think it's a little bit of both, but do you just always remember being like that? Was there an event where you felt like you needed to step into that? Because I can look back at my past and see, hey, I was born with a lot of this, but I remember a couple of moments when I'm like, nope, I'm leaning into this even more. Hey, just wanted to give a big shout out and thank you to one of our sponsors, Lit Lighting Solutions. Lit Lighting Solutions provides permanent decorative lighting for residential homes and commercial buildings in northern Colorado and up and down the Front Range. Quick note, these guys have done work on our family's personal home, and it is so cool to come home to permanent lighting that you can change day by day, season by season. To check them out, go to jellylighting.com. What about you?
Probably. Well, there were health issues with my mom growing up, so I think I felt like I had to step in as the woman of the house when she was sick, which I didn't really, looking back as an adult, but as a child, I felt like I needed to. So I think that was just my personality from, the time I was really young on. And then at some point, and it was never a conscious decision, I became more of an S, the slow processor. I don't like conflict anymore. How else would you describe it?
Just no change. Like you take forever.
Yep. I slowed down. I slowed way down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Very, very much concerned about the people and the relationship. Just slow, steady, loyal. Mm-hmm. It's like you're the 18-wheel truck, right? Takes you 3-4 days to get up to 60 miles an hour. But once you get going, like there's no stopping you. And I'm bouncing around in the little Corvette, little squirrel on crack in a Corvette with 100 ideas, 3 a.m. And you're like, whoa, I'm at 60 miles an hour. This is super shaky. There's people here. We just stabilized, right? It's that stabilizer. And then I'm just unstabilizing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder if subconsciously that was when, motherhood was really getting going. So probably part of me wanted to create that stable environment for our children and our family. And yeah, so that was totally unconscious, but that's probably what changed. And now ever since we moved this last time, my more computer, let's get it done, this is the way we do it, personality has come out.
Yeah.
I'm still a pretty high S, but my C has overtaken that for the time being. And I guess it's just to get what we need to get done. I'm interested to see what it'll be after all this is done.
After you quit your job.
Yeah. After I quit.
Well, you're not getting paid anyway, right?
Exactly.
You're an unpaid
this is
intern.
All free work. Yeah.
This is free work.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. No, happy you're here. I'm happy you're here. I've really enjoyed working with you. And I know it's not forever, but where's this going? Like, where do you envision this? So we were just talking the other day, Riley's 15. He's getting his license in November.
Yeah.
We're going to be seeing him a lot less. He's got a couple summers left. We're talking about, rearranging our calendar to take summers off, right? To be with the kids and travel and do what we love. And, I have this vision of when they're out of the house with where everything's going, the speaking and everything we're doing. But like, where do you see it? Like, we're getting closer to that next chapter of just built this dream house, and the kids are going to be at a point where they could leave it.
Right.
Damn, we're old.
I know we are.
We're freaking old, huh?
We're so old.
My goodness.
It's exciting. I mean, it's, as a parent, it's always one of those happy, sad, mixed emotion things. You're sad your babies are growing up, but you're also super excited to see what they do with their lives. And, who are they going to marry? What are they going to do for a career? Will we have grandkids? It's exciting.
Hopefully not too soon.
No, that needs to be a while down the road.
You hear that, Riley? Haley? No grandkids anytime soon.
Not anytime soon.
At least a decade.
Yeah, probably.
Because Riley's not talking to girls right now.
Yeah.
He's doing football and sports and friends.
Yep.
He's working.
Which is great. That's what he should be doing at his age. So
I think Haley will get married before Riley.
It's very possible.
She's going crazy.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
But
love it.
Yeah. Great kids. I'm excited though. I think it'll be fun too. And we did this on purpose. We wanted to start our family young so that when our kids were grown and out of the house, we would still be young enough to enjoy life together. So, yeah, I think it'll be exciting. I don't know where we'll go, but I'm excited to see it.
Spain, but not as much.
Nope.
Because you don't love it as much.
No.
That was a hard no. Did you see that? You see that? That was a hard no. Should we jump into that? That has been, that's been a very interesting point of contention and how the Spain stories played into our marriage. Because I think anybody that knows me hears the beautiful, wonderful, the experience, this life-changing experience, this other love for a culture and the scholarship that we've created. We've just sent our 19th student there.
Yeah,
right?
that's very cool.
Behind the scenes of all that, though, you've called it something.
Yeah.
And talk about that, because I think it's important to see behind this beautiful story can be this other part of the story that I think is important for couples to know.
Okay. Yeah. I've called Spain your mistress for a while. I actually refer to Spain as a she, your mistress. And yeah, she takes you away a lot. You love her a lot. And we actually went to marriage counseling.
Yeah, we did.
Earlier in our marriage because it was such a massive issue. So I didn't feel loved because at the time, Spain was still an escape for you.
Totally an escape. Yeah. And I didn't realize the love for it at the time that I went there. I escaped from a lot of things I needed to escape from.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was this time in life where wherever I would have gone, that would have been an escape that I fell in love with.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
I agree
if it was
with that.
Germany, we'd be doing German retreats right now.
Right.
Same thing. When did that first start playing out? Because we're talking about story, personality, style, programming, and patterns. Talk about that a lot. I was running some that were not helpful. They were absolutely sabotaging everything that I touched.
Right.
You as well, right?
Yeah,
we had some
of
great
course.
ones. We had some ones that weren't great. But dig into that a little bit more.
The Spain thing.
Because you would say it jokingly, but when you hit me over the head,
Yeah.
figuratively with it, I was like, hold on, excuse me.
Yeah.
And we started talking about that, right? Because it was about a decade ago when I started getting really hit over the head with a lot of things, right? That I'm a jerk to work for. I'm not doing a good job as a husband. I need to figure out my stuff as a man. And that was all right about that time when you called me out on that.
Yeah. Well, I think, you had started going to Spain a lot. We went in, 2006 together for the first time. Mm-hmm. And you just always wanted to be there. You always wanted to go there. You wanted to move there. You wanted to, just everything at the time. You left me. I don't mean that. You went on a trip without me when I was pregnant both times.
We were going to go to a wedding, right? Well, we were going to go to a wedding when you were pregnant with Riley, right?
Was it Riley or Haley? I can't remember.
We were going to go to somebody's wedding in 2007 when you were pregnant with Riley.
Too pregnant to fly.
Then the date got changed and you couldn't go.
Way too late. In the pregnancy, it was going to be an issue. They didn't want me going into labor on the plane. And you went, and I think to me, that was, oh, okay. So he's leaving me super huge pregnant when I'm about to pop.
Right.
To go be with his mistress.
That was total.
Was what it felt like.
But total dick move looking back, right? Probably not the best idea.
Probably not.
No, not. But I had no, right? What self-awareness did I have? What literal radar did I have into that conversation, if any, at all back then? None.
And we were still fairly newly married when we started our family, when we had Riley.
It's 3 years in, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there was still that getting used to each other, sacrificing things for each other, part of it as well. But you were definitely in love. And just when you would leave me with the tiny babies at home or whatever for 2 weeks at a time, and, oh, you're fine here. I got to go to Spain. It was just, I think that just started building for me of oh, he loves this more than me. Yeah. And that's why we had to go to marriage counseling.
More than you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. And we worked through that and processed through that.
It took a while.
It did.
It took a couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I'm at a point now with Spain. I love it. I appreciate it. I see that other side of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were just talking, we've determined, we lived there for a summer, 2016. So fast forward from all these trips away and he's leaving, and there's like this fear of loss, right? Because that was one of the big things. You come from an experience where there's a fear of loss.
Yep.
I come from a program, a betrayal program, and just all these things, right? And these are all mixing up, and all these are layering, and it all makes sense now looking back, right?
Yeah.
At the time, we had no idea,
Right.
And we're just fighting.
Yep.
Yeah, we're 2016. We spent the summer there. Beautiful beach, Alicante, Spain. The kids were 8 and 5.
Yeah.
Amazing summer. I got, thinking that's going to be just trip of a lifetime. Was it about 5 weeks in? I'm going to kill a Spaniard. You remember that? I come in at that tobacco store.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I'm going to kill a Spaniard.
Well, that was actually a very exciting moment for me because you came back to the flat that we were staying in and you said, I don't want to move here anymore. And to me, that was a massive relief. I think I was able to enjoy the summer much better from that point because up until that point, oh yeah, let's move here. Let's, have this be our place. We'll come here all the time. And I'm like, oh.
Totally. Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, so that was a massive relief for me.
I love it. No, and it's just it's the truth. It was one of the things. So now, what's been a vacation spot, an escape spot. It's an unplugged spot for me.
Yeah,
it still is.
Yeah.
And then as we've looked into doing longer term business there, right, the certain layers of things you have to go through, the bureaucracy, the lack of care for customer service. It's just part of their culture.
Right.
I have to turn into a different Matt over there.
Yeah.
And it's not a very nice one because to get stuff done over there, especially in my experience being a foreigner, they don't, in my experience, typically like to go out of their way to give you any kind of customer service.
Yep.
When they don't know you. The minute you know them and you meet a friend, right? Like Paco, and you go have a coffee and a cigarette and your kids play soccer together, you get whatever you want. But
Right.
breaking through that barrier, naturally I'm a big 6 foot tall giddy, like foreigner. Mm-hmm. So I walk in, they're not going to help me.
Yep.
Remember the NIE, all that shit show with that? That was ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, that was crazy.
Now we have these relationships where just go grab my friend, go over here, it's done.
Yeah.
But even with that, the level of bureaucracy and red tape and just due process that's totally unneeded, rules they have. Do you remember we got kicked out of a swimming pool at the apartment complex because we were wearing sunglasses in the swimming pool? And those aren't allowed
They aren't
in this
allowed.
particular apartment complex.
And if you ask why, they don't know. So then they make something up. And they told us that your sunglasses might explode in the pool.
In the pool, the plastic sunglasses.
And leave glass, they said. Leave glass all over the pool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was absurd. And then we got in trouble at a water park.
Did we get kicked out? Did we get kicked out?
No. But Haley was a little one how old was she?
That summer. 'Cause that was that summer. It was after we
16.
met Jose, Lorena, and Anar. And then we went to Warner Park in Madrid.
So she
was 5.
Yeah. She needed, we had these
fair-skinned,
light, fair-skinned, blonde babies. She needed a sun hat or she was going to just fry and burn. Well, you're not allowed to wear sun hats either.
In the water park.
For whatever reason. They say little kids, I don't know. The guy made up a reason. He said they might drown and you wouldn't know because they were wearing a hat.
Was the reason just for us?
Probably.
Oh, and then unless we got a medical bracelet.
Unless we got a medical bracelet for her.
Which
and
we
did. And then they still wouldn't let her wear the hat.
And then I tried to fight the guy. I think so. And did we leave or get kicked out? Because I remember I was going to fight a Spaniard at a water park.
That's why we left.
That's right.
I didn't want you to get in a fight with a Spaniard. It wasn't worth it.
That one wasn't.
Yeah, lots of frustrating, interesting, made up, on the spot by whoever's their rules.
Just bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, total bullshit.
So it was a massive relief to me when you didn't want to move us there anymore.
Yeah, and then just going back the last time when I was there with Haley trying to get business done, and we're still we're doing the Camino, the hike of a lifetime in September, ultimate immersion, and just having these business experiences where they just totally fail with customer service. And I remember, ask Haley, 6 a.m, getting ready to fly home. It was a really bad evening at this hotel that shouldn't have been an evening like that, and I was holding them accountable, and they didn't like it, and it was brutal. Yeah. It took me, how long was it? I was not happy for a while. I didn't like especially who I had to become over there to get stuff done. And I don't like that.
But to be fair to you about that, they are all like that to each other. They're very, rude and in your face and to each other to get things done. So when you come from a different culture and you don't, there are definitely people here who are just rude, thinking they'll get things done that way, but it doesn't go as well for them here necessarily. But we more do things kindly, to get things done. They do not. So
and you've got to push hard. A lot of them settle for the fact that, you know what, this person's not going to go out of their way. So they just say, okay, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Let's just go have a coffee and a meal. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just wasn't having it. I think for me, it was just getting ready to take people over there and groups over there for this experience. Like everything needs to be excellent.
Yeah.
And they typically don't do excellence very well.
Right.
And you've got to force mediocrity there. I feel like many times just force doing your job.
Yep.
And total cultural differences, right?
Absolutely.
Like you can't expect something that they don't even perform in their culture, but some of the stuff is like, okay.
Yeah.
Like the cake. Don't even get me going on the cake. You put the cake that I bring home for people in the refrigerator every year. You're going to do it this year.
Yep.
And I don't want to hear it. And I'm going to stand. I told her I'm going to stand here till you put the cake in the same refrigerator that you've put it in the last 11 times that I've done it. And I don't care if there's 200 people in the lobby. Like that's what it was.
Yep.
Okay, okay, Senor Shoup. We'll put your cake in the refrigerator.
But with all these frustrations that you have, you still love it.
I still do.
And I'm okay with that now.
In short spurts. Yep.
Yes.
And it's great. It's amazing. But it's been a huge part of our marriage.
Yes.
Would you say that was a moment when we were at our
like a
biggest
low point?
lowest low point? Was like us not dealing with our stuff, and then you've got that. We've obviously got other things, right? But I think that was a top 3, top 5?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Within the top 3. Yeah.
So with that, like every marriage, 'cause I spend a lot of time with men. You spend a lot of time with women. Like part of your calling, part of your purpose is to pour in to women with stories, and you come alongside them and you encourage them and you support them and give them perspective. And I do the same thing with men, but every marriage, at least what I see with men, and I think you see with women, there's a top 1 or 2 things that don't get dealt with, right? Like what are some of those things you see within a marriage? What would you love a husband to know from a wife's perspective to pay attention to? Because every marriage has their thing. But maybe what are those things that we just don't know? Because we're a man through a man's lens.
Right.
Right. And then I'll share as a man to a woman through the lens, like what are those things? If that makes any sense.
Gosh, I don't know. Because I think it's different for everybody. But I think what both people can do is you really got to look at the person you're with. Like, where are they coming from? Are they coming from a place of they're trying to be mean to you? They're whatever. Are you really a team? Because if that other person loves you, which most likely they do, they married you, they might be upset, but they're not trying to rip you to shreds.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing for women, I'll say, is a lot of the women I talk to expect their husbands to know what they want without telling them what they want. And I have always felt that that's pretty unfair. And some husbands do the same to their wives as well. But you can't assume that your spouse is reading your mind about what you want, what you don't want. Like if I say I do not want a present or a surprise party or whatever, I mean I do not want a present or a surprise party. I am not twisting my words.
You're not.
I'm not.
Some women are.
Some women are.
Some women do.
And that's not fair. That's not fair. If either way, from a man to a woman or a woman to a man, spouses, relationships, whatever, you can't do that. You can't do that and then get angry.
What if both spouses, I might just play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
But let's say both spouses understand that, hey, wife says, I don't want a surprise party. And they both know that when she says that, she wants a surprise party. And he knows that. So he gives her a surprise party. And she's like, oh, thank you. I didn't want that. But that makes the marriage better. And that's an understood method of communication. Is that okay?
I guess.
And how many times does that happen, though, honestly? Right?
Well, I think the problem
does it?
with some kind of communication like that is it might work sometimes, but then he might know she means if she says she doesn't want to party, she really does. But then what about Valentine's? When she says, I don't want flowers. Does she want flowers? Does she not? He brings her flowers. She's like, I told you I didn't want flowers. Or he, whatever, doesn't do it and she's mad about it. So I think you have to be really careful when you're manipulating the words or saying the opposite of what you mean. Because at some point, it's not going to go well.
It's going to bite somebody.
And somebody's going to get hurt.
Totally. So it's just always better.
I think
and
so.
we've gotten to that point.
I think I always was like that.
So I'm very direct. I just need the direct answer. And we've had a lot of conversations is like you'll circle around it because you're processing it and wanting to make sure it's not killing my excitement, my vision, all of this that like gives me life. And then you say it.
Yep.
Like, hey, just tell me what it is. Hit me in the face with it. Kind of a thing. What else? Because that's awesome. And I'm just thinking back to the times and the conversations and the experiences where we didn't do that.
Yes.
Did you tell me you didn't want that surprise party that I threw you?
Yep.
So you're literally sharing that because of the 30th
No,
birthday.
actually,
You threw me a 30th.
I did. I threw you a 30th surprise party, but I also know about you that while you never told me you wanted one or didn't want one, you are very social, and that would be something that you would enjoy. So I knew that that would be energy giving and life giving to you to have that for your party.
You knew that was my personality style and my love language, that I was going to hang out with people, words of affirmation, having fun.
Yep. And get
doing the
filled
gifts.
up
Yeah.
by all the social. And I
And you
told
did it.
you right after that, because our birthdays are just a couple of months apart.
Yep.
Do not throw me a surprise party. I don't want one because I'm an extroverted and an introvert. I can do people for a while and then I am done and I need to recharge alone. And people meet me and they don't realize that, oh, you're social. You talk. Yeah, I am. And you were a cheerleader. You cheered in college. You were in front of everybody all the time. Yeah. Yeah, I was. But that doesn't mean I want to go to a party. I don't like it.
So you said,
don't do it.
Don't throw me a
I
surprise
said,
party.
Do not throw me a surprise party.
But I want to love you like the way that I'm loved, right? We hadn't read love language yet.
We hadn't
We kind of
figured
knew
that
personality styles, but not to the degree we know now.
Yeah.
So 30th birthday, take you to dinner.
Yeah.
Our favorite spot.
And I'm very excited because at the time our kids were little.
And you
Our
dropped them
daughter
off.
was 1.
Yeah, we dropped them off with family. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're like night out on the town, birthday,
excited.
no kids.
Yeah. I didn't tell you this until
You
the
just,
last couple of years too,
yeah.
because I never wanted you to feel bad about it.
No, it is what it is. Yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about it. No, I think this is valuable, right? Like I know what happens in the story.
Yeah.
We're going out, melting pot. That's our once a year thing.
Yep.
Our little splurge.
Yep. Love it. And, we're sitting in this private room. They had it curtained off. It was great. I was so thrilled. And then friends of ours popped their head in. And I was like, okay, friends dinner. Cool. I can do that. I'm excited about that for my birthday. And then, let's move you upstairs.
Surprise.
And it was mostly your friends though, too, which was interesting. It was like all your friends and family.
Yeah.
And then like a couple of my friends. And I got handed my children.
Happy
And
birthday.
that was it. And
Happy
everybody
30th.
had like conversations going on and happy times. And I was feeding my children. So it was highly disappointing to me. Not that my children are disappointing. I just thought I was getting a date. And when that didn't happen, that was the disappointing part. And a night off as mom, especially when the kids were that little, was like a breath of fresh air, a recharge,
And then it just drained you.
And then it totally drained me. And I never told you because I knew that you meant well. I knew that you were loving me the way you wanted to be loved. And I appreciated.
And then I thought you wanted to be loved,
Yes.
not knowing that we hadn't read this book yet.
Or done newer personality style tests either. But no, I knew you meant well. That's why I didn't tell you for years and years and years.
Like a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. Here we are.
Yeah.
So man, we've had this journey, like basement of a bar. I fall in love. Takes you a while. Told you we'd have beautiful kids. We have beautiful kids. Jump into business. Lots of adversity. Lots of struggles in our stories, right?
Yep.
Coming together, then having them together, getting over them. And like 20 years feels like a long time. So like coming to 20 years in business and marriage and the Spain thing and everything, right? All these stories converging in it. Feels like a short blink, also through a lot of long lessons.
Yeah.
Like
That's a good way to put it.
Three things we talked about, right? Is personality style.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to mattshoup.com, free tools, leadership language survey. Go take that individually and as a couple.
Yeah.
Love languages, right? So you've got the layer of how and why you behave the way you do, how you give and receive love in a relationship. And then painted baby is brave and vulnerable. Connect with your spouse through brave and vulnerable storytelling.
Or talking like a baby.
Or talking like a baby.
Right.
So it's very fitting. Maybe we should do a spin on that. Call it Baby Talk with Matt and Emily. Buy that URL.
Baby,
Buy that
baby
domain.
talk. That's right.
But I think those, like sitting here 20 years in, leadership language, love languages, and neither of us were very brave and vulnerable in our storytelling and our marriage, our life, our journey, right? It's like anything.
Right.
It's been this experience of peeling these layers back individually as a man and a woman, right? Within the people and groups that have done that with you, to like bring these layers of our stories to then come back to our story and go, well, that makes a lot of sense there. That I was a knucklehead and just went to Spain when you were 8 months pregnant. Makes sense now.
Right.
And it's cool we can talk about it now.
Yeah.
And it's like total love, no judgment, just an understanding of where we came from, where we were then, and knowing what we know now, going to look back to almost like take ourselves back to counseling.
Yeah.
Now that we have these tools to do this. Before we close, because we're wrapping up on a whole episode here, I think we got to have you back. You are the sexiest guest I've had. The only one I want to make out with.
Thanks.
The only guest I want to make out with.
I appreciate that.
Cool.
I'm glad to hear
All
it.
right. Maybe we'll close the podcast that way.
Nobody wants that.
Any final thoughts? Just what we've talked about. Entrepreneurship, marriage, business, our life journeys, our stories, these tools. What else do you want to share with business owners, leaders, couples? Maybe they're struggling right now that you haven't shared yet that can make their marriage and their life and their future better.
Yeah.
For them, for their kids, for their family tree.
Mm-hmm. Stick with it. Don't be afraid to do the counseling. There's still, even though mental health has been more talked about in the recent years, there's still such a stigma around counseling, which I never had because I grew up with a counselor as a father. So I never had that outlook on it. It was always very healthy to me. But I've talked to so many friends who, marriage is on the rocks or whatever. One of them wants to go to counseling. The other refuses for whatever reason at the time. And then wants to later, and then the other person doesn't want to. Just go. Even if you don't want to. It's a good tool to add to your marriage toolbox. Learn your love languages. We recently had a friend say to us, I've had 5 ex-girlfriends tell me to read this book, and I haven't yet. There's probably a reason for that. You tend to love people the way you want to be loved. And that is, if, like for you, surprise party to me, I did not feel loved by that. I need different things. And that's important to know. What you need is important to know, and what your significant other needs is important to know. Let's see, what else? I don't talk like a baby anymore. That's the most important thing to
That's just gone.
just pull from this
Just
podcast.
want to let everybody know.
Yeah. The one thing I need you to remember. But no, really stick with it. relationships are sticky. It's ups and downs and hills and valleys and dark spots and bright places, and really dig in with your person. You wanted to marry them for a reason at one point, even if you forget what that is now. So dig into that, dig into yourself, make yourself better first. Go to counseling. If I think a lot of people focus on, I'll fix you because that'll fix us. You got to fix yourself, and your spouse usually will follow.
And that's the premise of like what we teach. Right?
Yeah.
Gentle Art of Leadership is invest in yourself, whatever that is. Counseling, self-development, therapy, whatever you call it, to make yourself better. Do that for yourself. Be selfish, because if you don't figure and fix whatever you got going on, you can't go fix somebody. How's a broken person going to fix another broken person?
Yep.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
And I think we both tried that, right? We both tried that.
I'm sure we did.
Yeah, because you saw my potential. We've talked about this. You saw the potential that's like finally coming out in certain ways 20 years later. Right? We talked with me, you, and your dad about this. Just work on yourself. Counseling's okay.
It is okay.
We've both gone individually. I think the first time either of us went was as a couple.
Yeah.
Here in Fort Collins. Mm-hmm. Then I've gone off to do my own, did the deep week-long intensives and breakouts, and then in the business space, all this personal development, make yourself better.
Yeah.
And then come back and talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. Communication.
Yeah.
Stick with it, and communication.
Well, hey, we've got to come back. We're going to do another round of this, because I think I feel like we just scratched the surface with our story.
It's a get to know you session.
Yeah, and we'll do more. So we wrap up every podcast the same way. You were out here in the building. You're in the building a lot. I'd say more than you want to be right now.
I live here right
for
now.
the time we do. But you grab your favorite color from our color wall, and you have your one statement that you want to leave with the world when you leave it. So we're going to close out and have you share what that is.
Okay, so I chose a Bible verse. So it's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, because we're so flawed. That's my addition. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight.
Super Mamio.
Super Daddy-O.
It's a wrap.
I love you.
Love you too. Are you a business owner or a business leader and you've had some success, but you're just feeling like you're lacking a little bit of significance, or maybe just lost your way and lost direction a little bit? On top of that, would you like to go to Spain with me? Check out what I have going on September 7th through September 15th of this year, 2023. I am taking a small group of male business owners and business leaders over to Northwest Spain on the hike of a lifetime on the Camino de Santiago. I've got a group of guys that have been very successful, and they're just a little off track, a little off path, and we are going to hike 72 miles over 6 days. And we're going to be unpacking those things. We're going to unplug and disconnect from the daily busy grind of life and business. We are together going to recenter, revision, and refocus on our purpose and what's important in life, leadership, and business. And we're going to come back from that experience together, recharged and rejuvenated to keep our journey driving forward. I would love it if you would check out mattshoup.com, click on the Go to Spain with Matt button, and you can learn all about this adventure that we're about to go take.